to shut my TV off real fast. Oh, are you guys back for more Maniac? Okay, I suppose I could pause Disney Plus. Well, kids, good morning, boys and girls. It's another great day to be alive. Change lives, Northwest Mounties. We're back. We're reading Maniac Magee. We are starting part 2 today. Mr. Brown didn't think Miss Morgan was practicing good hygiene habits of showering, so I want to make sure, I showed that I showered today during our extended break. Okay, Mr. Brown. Some of our adult listeners wanted some context, some background to our Maniac book, kids. So hold on really fast. Maniac Magee is about a kid named Jeffrey Magee, and his parents had passed away at the beginning of the story. Went to live with aunt and uncle. Didn't work out with aunt and uncle. He's been kind of this crazy kid that's been traveling all over and ends up in this town where East End and West End do not like each other. If you haven't gathered that, the whites and the blacks in this town are very at odds, and Maniac doesn't seem to, they call him Maniac, doesn't seem to get that. So he was living with the Beals. In the last chapter, chapter 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 is when we left off, and we left off on part 2. Jeffrey kind of got kicked out of town, was living with the Beals, and then left town. And I like the picture that Jerry Spinelli paints for us at the end of that part 1, where Maniac's walking down the middle of the street. We got the East Enders and the West Enders on both sides. They're not going to cross over, and they walked him right out of town. So let's catch up. It's kind of going to fast forward, see what Maniac's up to, if he found a place to live. So tune in here. Now, if you haven't read, go back, take a listen. If not, tune in. Oh, and one more thing. Tomorrow, we're going to have a special guest reader here on the couch. I won't tell you who, but tune in, get excited about it tomorrow. Guest reader. Chapter 22. If you were the baby buffalo at the Elmwood Park Zoo, maybe it would have gone something like this. You wake up, you have breakfast, compliments of mother's milk. You mosey on over to the lean-to. Surprise, a strange new animal in there. Bigger than you, but a lot smaller than Mom. Hair, but only on the top of its head. Sitting in the straw, munching on a carrot, like Mom does. Every morning, same thing. You get to expect it. Some mornings, you forget Mom's milk and head right on over to the lean-to. The creature offers you a carrot, but all you know how to deal with is milk. You nuzzle the new, funny-smelling, hairy-headed animal. It nuzzles you back. Mom doesn't seem to mind. After the nuzzling, the stranger climbs over the fence and goes away, not to return until that night. Only one morning, the stranger falls from the fence and lies on the ground on the other side. It doesn't move. You try to poke your nose through the chain links, but you can't reach. You can only watch. Only watch. Wonder who that person is. The old man was bumping through the zoo in the park pickup when he spotted the body clumped outside the buffalo pen. He wheeled over, got out. A kid? At first he could only stare at the body, even then at the baby bison whose large brown eyes seemed to be watching them both. The mother came lumbering over, nodded, as to confirm, a kid. The kid looked terrible. His clothes were scrap rags. Wherever his body showed through, it was bony and dirty and scratched. The two bison staring seemed to say, well, do something. The old man gathered his bones and muscles as best he could and managed to hoist the kid and get him into the pickup. He laid him on the seat, bent his legs so he could close the door. He knew he should take the kid straight to the hospital or a doctor, someplace official, someplace right. But the pickup just sort of steered itself back to the band shell, and there he was, lugging the kid into a baseball equipment room. The season was over by now, but the army green burlap bag still stood ready for the next ump to call, play ball! He yanked out a couple of chest protectors and laid the kid down, careful with his head. At least he was breathing. Though it wasn't cold, it seemed as if the kid ought to be covered. So the old man took his winter jacket off and hook and laid it over him. Then he waited and watched. With trembling, dusty fingers, he touched the kid's limp, scrawny hand. He had never really touched a kid's hand before. Hey! The kid's voice was barely a squeak, but it threw him back. He dropped the hand. Where am I? The old man cleared his throat. The band shell. The band shell? In the back, equipment room. Kid's eyes squinted, blinked. And you? What about me? Well, who are you? Grayson. Grayson, do I know you? He got up. Guess you do now. He went to his hot plate, heated up some water, and made the kids some chicken noodle soup. He gave it to the kid who was sitting up now. You want a spoon? He looked as though he could hardly lift the cup. He held it with both hands and gulped it down. Ha! He said. Never mind, you still hungry? The kid flopped back down. A little. Wait here, said Grayson, and left. 10 minutes later, he was back with a Zepp, a large. It took the kid less time to polish it off than it had taken Grayson to get it. He told the kid not to eat so fast he'd get sick, and the kid nodded. Grayson said, where'd you get them scratches? Oh, some picker bush. What were you doing there? Hiding. Hiding from who? Some kids. Where? The kid pointed. Somewhere out there, some other town. He crossed his legs Indian style on the chest protector. Can I ask you a favor? Shoot. Can we go somewhere and get some butterscotch crimpets? Remember, Maniac really likes crimpets. Grayson squawked. Crimpets? You're still hungry? For them, I am. Grayson threw the greasy Zepp wrapper into the wastebasket. I don't know, maybe you ought to do something for me first. Like what? Why, tell me your name. It's Jerry Magee. And where you live? Well, I did live on Sycamore Street, 728. Did? Well, I guess I don't anymore. The old man stared. You said Sycamore? Yep. Ain't that the East End? Yep. With his fingernail, he scraped a path of the dirt off the kid's forearm. He stared at it. What are you doing? The kid asked. Seeing if you were white under there. Neither spoke for a while. At last the kid said, anything else you want to ask me? The old man shrugged. Guess not. Now, come on, don't stop asking. I'm asked out. How about the zoo, huh? Do you want to know what I was doing at the zoo at the buffalo pen? The old man sighed. Okay, what? Well, I was living there. With the buffaloes? Yep, with the buffaloes. You like buffaloes? Well, it was dark when I got there. I thought it was a deer pen. They switched the deer and the buffaloes around last month. Okay with me. I got along better with the buffaloes anyways. Well, I'll tell you one thing, the old man sniffed. You sure smell like one. The kid laughed. They both laughed. And when they finally calmed down, the kid said, any chance of those crimpets now? Grayson reached for the pickup keys. Let's go. Should we read chapter 23? I feel like we should. They're short. We just met Grayson. You know, Maniac obviously met this old man Grayson who's kind of taking him in. Let's see what happens. Chapter 23. Grayson got the crimpets, all right. He brought a whole box of 3 packs. With 10 packs to a box, that was 30 butterscotch crimpets. Maniac thought he must have climbed out of that buffalo pen right into heaven. Then Grayson took Maniac home. Home for the old man was 2 Mills YMCA. He lived in a room on the 3rd floor, but he didn't take Maniac up there. He took him downstairs to the locker room. He got him a towel and a cake of soap, told him to take off his rags, and pointed that way to the showers. Maniac stayed in that shower for an hour. He hadn't done this since his last bath with the little ones. He smiled at the thought of them shrieking and splashing. The shower needles stung his scratches, but it was good. A welcome back to town stinging. When Maniac finally forced himself from the shower, he found the old man waiting with clothes. Grayson's clothes. I called the U.S. Army to haul them buffaloes away, he said. Them buffalo rags away, he said. They came in with gas masks and they used tongs to pick them up and put them in a steel box. They took the box away to bury it at the bottom of the first mine shaft they came to. Maniac couldn't stop laughing. Neither could Grayson, especially when he got a load of the kid drowning in his clothes. After an hour, after a minor shopping spree, Maniac had some clothes of his own. For the rest of the afternoon, they cruised around town, talking and eating crimpets. So, said the old man, now what are you going to do? Well, he thought it over. How about a job? I could work for the park, like you. Grayson didn't answer that. He said, where do you think you're going to stay? Maniac's answer was prompt. Well, the baseball room, it's a perfect. A tiny idea was beginning to worm its way into Grayson's head. He could barely feel it as it brushed by all the claptrap in his brain. He ignored it. He said, well, what about school? Maniac was silent. Some butterscotch icing had stayed behind on a wrapper. He scooped it up and mopped it with his finger, wishing it were Mrs. Beale's and not his own. Grayson, who was not comfortable asking questions, was even less comfortable, waiting for answers. I said, what about school? Well, our school's on break. We have the coronavirus. Just kidding. Maniac turned to him. What about it? You gotta go. You're a kid, ain't you? I'm not going. But you gotta, don't you? They'll make you. Not if they don't find me. The old man just looked at him for a while with a mixture of puzzlement and recognition, as though his fish he had landed might be the same one he had thrown away long before. Why, he said. Maniac felt why more than he knew why. It had to do with home and families and school, and how a school seemed sort of like a big home, but only a day home. But then it empties out, and you can't stay there at night because it's not really a home. And you can never use it as your address, because an address is where you stay at night, where you walk right in the front door without knocking, where everybody talks to each other and uses the same toaster. So all the other kids will be heading for their homes, their night homes, each of them, hundreds flocking from school like birds from a tree, scattering across town, each breaking off to his or her own place, each knowing exactly where to land. School. Home. No, he was not going to have one without the other. If you try to make me, he said, I'd start running. Grayson said nothing. What the kid said actually made him feel good, though. He had no idea why, and brushing the little worm of a notion was beginning to tickle him now. He kept on driving. One more chapter. What could we figure out? I feel like, you know what? We all got time. We're just hanging out. We'll read one more chapter. One more. 24. They got back to the band shell just as they finished the last of the crimpets. Grayson looked at his watch. Guess it's time to quit the job I never did today. Time for dinner, too. Grayson was joking, but Maniac was serious when he piped, Great, where to? Dumbfounded, the old man drove back out of the park to the nearest diner, where he sat with a cup of coffee while the boy wolfed down meatloaf and gravy, mashed potatoes, zucchini salad, and coconut custard pie. Grayson had a way of jumping into a subject without warning. It was during Maniac's dessert that he abruptly said, Them black people, they eat mashed potatoes too? Maniac thought he was kidding, then realized he wasn't. Sure, Mrs. Beale used to have potatoes a lot, mashed in every other way. Mrs. who? Mrs. Beale. Do you know the Beales? Of 728 Sycamore Street? The old man shook his head. Well, they were my family. I had a mother and a father and a little brother and a sister of my age and a dog. My own room, too. Grayson started staring out the diner window as if digesting this information. How about meatloaf? Huh? They eat that too? Sure, meatloaf too. And peas and corn, you name it. Cake? Maniac beamed. Oh man, you kidding? Mrs. Beale makes the best cakes in the world. Grayson's eyes narrowed. Toothbrushes, they use them? Maniac fought not to smile. Absolutely. We all had our own toothbrushes hanging in the bathroom. I know that, said Grayson, impatient. But is theirs the same as ours? No difference that I could see. You didn't drink out of the same glass, did you? Absolutely we did. This information seemed to shock the old man. Maniac laid down his fork. Grayson, they're just regular people like us. I was never in a house of theirs. Well, I'm telling you, it's the same. There's bathtubs and refrigerators and rugs and TVs and beds. Grayson was wagging his head. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? It was after dark when they got back to the baseball equipment room. The worm in Grayson's head had long since ceased to be a tiny tickle, and it was now a maddening itch. As with all such itch worms, it would exit only by one route, the mouth. He said, I was thinking, maybe you want to come over to my place. The floor's pretty hard here. He tapped the floor to show how hard it was. The grizzled gray old park hand could never know how much Maniac was tempted, or how deeply the offer touched him. Neither could Maniac explain that the bad luck he always seemed to have with parents who had led him to the conclusion that he'd better stick to himself. Oh, it's not so bad here, he said. Look, he lay down on the chest protectors and closed his eyes. Just like a mattress. I can feel myself dozing already. And then, not wanting to hurt the old man's feelings, he quickly added, Hey, I told you everything about me. How about you? He pulled Grayson's coat over himself. A bedtime story. Grayson snorted. A story? I don't know any stories. Sure you do, Maniac prodded. About yourself. You know about you. Everybody's got a story. Not me. Grayson was edging for the door. I ain't got no story. I ain't nobody. I work at the park. You line baseball fields? Yep, I do that. Well, you live at the Y. You drive the park pickup. You like butterscotch crimpets. Grayson shook his head. Not as much as you. I was just eating them to be friendly so you wouldn't have to eat them all by yourself. And there's another thing about you, Maniac joked. You're a liar. They both laughed. Grayson opened the door. Wait, called Maniac. What did you want to grow up to be when you were a kid? Grayson paused in the doorway. He looked out into the night. A baseball player, he said. He turned out the light and closed the door. We will pause right there. So he's getting to know this older gentleman, Grayson, who kind of took him in, and they're both learning some stuff from each other. So excited to keep reading this one. The story gets really good. So tune in tomorrow. We ended on chapter 25. 2 things. 1, make sure you're staying safe, washing your hands. I miss you guys. I love you guys. I hope you're doing well. Getting outside, being safe, but also being active. And 2, there is a movie that goes with this. I think it's on YouTube if you want to Google it. Don't watch it yet. I shouldn't have told you this. Okay, because I know you got a lot of time on your hands. Don't watch it yet, but there is a movie that goes with this that we were going to watch in class. I think it's only an hour long. And then maybe we could talk about when we get back, the comparisons and contrast to the book and the movie. So I'm excited about that. Hope you guys are doing well. As always, have a great day. Change lives. Go Mounties. Deuces.